A Breakup Letter and a Song by Miss Thompson. The colonies and King George III. When that relationship ended, it was bad. So here's their stories, told through the Declaration of Independence and You'll Be Back from Hamilton. The Declaration of Independence was written by Thomas Jefferson in 1776. Good old TJ used the ideas of the Enlightenment thinkers like Locke, Rousseau, and Voltaire. There are three major parts to the Declaration: the Preamble, grievances, and the conclusion. So what you see here is the Declaration, and it's broken up. So the green and the blue are the Preamble, the red are the grievances, and the yellow is the conclusion. The Preamble explains the purpose of the breakup letter. It is the telling of King George why they're writing this letter. And from the words of the document, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Wow, what does that mean? Well, the first sentence of the Declaration states that because of natural law, which is an Enlightenment idea, that people can demand political independence and acknowledge that the grounds for such independence must be reasonable, very much based on Enlightenment ideas. In the next section, which is the most famous line of the Preamble, includes the ideas and ideals that were the principles of the Declaration. It is also an assertion of what is known as the right of revolution. That is, that people have certain rights, and when a government violates these rights, the people have the right to alter or abolish that government. So if you think about it in terms of a breakup letter, what they're saying is that you, King George, as the boyfriend, violated your rights with me, and thus I'm going to break up with you. And those statements of beliefs were that all men were created equal, rights were given to them by their creator, not by the people running the government, and that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are God-given rights. So the next section is the grievances, and this is a list of charges against King George, which aim to demonstrate that he has violated the colonists' rights and is therefore unfit to be their ruler. In breakup terms, it was all the reasons why King George was a bad boyfriend. And let me tell you, there were a lot of reasons. The last part is where the actual declaring happens. And if you look here at the purple text, it says, by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved of all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. So what it's saying there in that line is that the colonists are now independent from England, and they will now be free, independent states. And also, you have to think about the men who wrote and signed this declaration were willing to risk everything they had, because if they hadn't won the Revolutionary War, all of them would have been tried and killed for treason. So how did King George feel about this? Well, as you can imagine, the king wasn't very pleased. And just because the Declaration of Independence was written and they said they were independent, the Revolutionary War continued for another 7 years because crazy old King George refused to let the colonies go. So what did he do? With any breakup, both sides have bad things to say about what happened, and the stories start to spread. I'm going to stick with this idea of the breakup, and here's how my idea of how King George would have reacted to the Declaration. Keep in mind, up until this point is all historical information about the Declaration. From here on out, this is my interpretation or my ideas of how he would have reacted to it using Hamilton's ideas, the ideas of Hamilton creator Lin-Manuel Miranda. Okay, so Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is the creator of the musical Hamilton, explains how King George ended up in the show. Jonathan Groff, who plays King George in the original Broadway production, talks about the song You'll Be Back and what it means. This clip comes from a PBS series that was done on Hamilton's America. And this video also shows a short clip of the song.
You'll be back, soon you'll see. You'll remember you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. You'll remember that I served you well.
King George just sort of showed up in my brain. It doesn't make sense on paper that he should be a character in this musical. He's all the way across the ocean, far from the events. He and Hamilton never met. At the same time, to give him these moments throughout the show robs the American Revolution of its inevitability.
Each piece of music is specific to an emotion and a character. Even though it's about history, Lin has found a way lyrically and musically to connect it to now. And so having the King George psychology be like a breakup song from Britain to America, I feel like makes it really relatable.
When you're gone, I'll go mad. So don't throw away this thing we had. 'Cause when push comes to shove, I will kill your friends and family to remind you of my love.
This song, framed as a letter from King George to the colonists, is a kind of extended double entendre. It addresses the grievances of the colonists and asserts George's authority, but in form and wording, it echoes any number of other songs which you have a similarly creepy, you want to leave me, but you really can't vibe. You'll Be Back, and then the subsequent King George songs in the musical, are dramatically different in style from the rest of the musical Hamilton. Where most of Hamilton tends towards the convention of hip-hop and rap and R&B, King George's music plays homage to British invasion pop, particularly the Beatles. It creates a tonal separation between the old school white monarchy and Britain and the young revolutionaries in the colonies, most of whom are played by actors of color. So I'm going to go through the lyrics of the song and kind of break some of it down for you. So in the first verse, it says, you say, the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea, which you hurl in the sea when you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember, we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. So the first part, the price of my love is not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea, which you hurl in the sea when you see me go by. Britain reserved the right to make Americans pay taxes on goods and trade without allowing them representation in Parliament, which set the tax rates. The resentment towards these taxes was famously realized in the Boston Tea Party, a protest of the Tea Act by seizing a shipment of East India Company tea and throwing it into Boston Harbor, ruining the tea. British Parliament responded with strict sanctions on Boston written out in the Intolerable Acts, further mounting tensions, inspiring colonists to convene the Continental Congress and eventually inciting revolution. The next line, remember we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite your estrangement, I'm your man. Well, what that means is when the original 13 colonies were being established, the British Parliament had a finger in all affairs of the new nation. They took a largely hands-off approach in the first 50 years after colonization. But soon, Britain realized that a gold mine they were sitting on with all of the natural resources that were in America. And so they started imposing rules and taxes on the colonists. These rules and taxes started to get a little too intolerable. And, well, history tells us what became of that arrangement. So in the second verse, it says, you'll be back, soon you'll see, you'll remember you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell, you'll remember that I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Okay, that sounds a little creepy. Well, the line, you'll be back, soon you'll see, you'll remember you belong to me. Well, this whole song makes explicit the implicit creepiness of a lot of stalkerish love songs where the singer describes the object of their affection as their possession or property. So what King George is trying to say is that the colonies belong to him and you better not leave. Then he says, you'll be back. Time will tell. You'll remember that I served you well. Okay, so the American Revolution occurred at the height of the Age of Enlightenment and is largely a direct byproduct of that philosophical revolution. This line implies that the king is stooping down to the level of his public consensus or what people think of him, arguing that he has served his subjects well and that he does not deserve this revolution and its accusations of tyranny. So what he's saying is that you'll come back to me because you'll remember that I served you well, that I took care of you when you were just starting out. Then there's the statement, and no, don't change the subject because you're my favorite subject. There's a play on words here. Subject is both a topic and under one's authority. And he is so pleased with himself about that is that he repeats it 2 more times. This comes actually from a proclamation that the actual King George made using the term subject, is Proclamation of Rebellion, which the song is based on in response to the Battle of Bunker Hill in June of 1775. So he makes this proclamation after the Battle of Bunker Hill in 1775. And so it fits in well with this whole idea of the Declaration because he's saying, don't be trying to change the subject and telling me that I'm a bad person because, you're still my favorite person. Okay, so now it's you'll be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war. Okay, so that bolded purple, that has a double meaning. Okay, this song is structured as a love song, and in that context, the line could mean he wants to win love from the colonists. But he also continues with this theme of domination. He's fighting the war against him, and he's saying he'll win. In fact, as he sings on, it's almost as an afterthought for your love. It's like, I'm going to win because how dare you go against me? Oh, that's because I want your love. It's kind of an afterthought. The lack of inventiveness in this line is also a continuation of King George's simplistic wording. because of these simple words, it's implying that he's just not a complicated guy. He doesn't really have any big revolutionary thoughts. Okay, so we talked about the first part of this verse. Now we're going to go to, when you're gone, I'll go mad. So don't throw away this thing we had. So he's saying is that when the colonists leave, when you break up with me, when you leave me, he's going to go crazy. And you can't throw away this wonderful relationship that we had. But what's funny to, history geeks like me, I do know that at the end of his life, King George did famously go mad. Okay, KG, King George, his mental illness became linked with the mixed successes of his reign. And he is known as the Mad King who lost America. Don't throw away this thing we had is also a reference to Hamilton's repeated insistence that he is not throwing away his shot. From the king's perspective, he thinks that the colonies are throwing away their shot by rebelling, that they're, never going to be any better than they are with him. So this last part is the whole song, and I'm going to just let that play for you, but there are some things in there that I want you to take notice of, okay? And there's been a lot of conversation on the internet and stuff about the fact that the actor who plays King George, you'll notice he spits and drools a lot during the time he's singing it. And I believe that this is to show how crazy and mad the king is. You ever get where you're so angry, or your parents have gotten so angry with you that they start yelling and just spit comes flying out of their mouths and you're just like, eh? Okay, that's what I think he's using that to represent, not that the guy has a drooling problem. Also, that the refrain in it is he fills his lyrics with da 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 da, all right, rather than using the intricate background rapping we see in a lot of the other songs in the musical. This simplistic, repetitive sound is a way to indicate that the British had a more simplistic approach to language than the Americans, that the Americans were far more complex. So watch the video, and I hope that you see the things that I've talked about.
You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea, which you heard in the sea when you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. You'll be back, soon you'll see. You remember you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. You remember that I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Da 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 da. You say our love is draining and you can't go. You'll be the one complaining when I am gone. And now, don't change the subject, 'cause you're my favorite submissive subject, my loyal, royal subject, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. You'll be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war for your love and for your praise. And I'll love you till my dying days. When you're gone, I'll go mad. So don't throw away this thing we heard. 'Cause when push comes to shove, I will kill your friends and family to remind you of my love. Da 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 da.
Good morning. So today for our English skill development, we are going to take a look at claims and how they are supported with evidence and warrants. We're going to be doing this through the case of Queenie and Arthur Vellepides, in the case of the slip or the trip. So I want you to take a look at the picture on the screen now. You have this recreation of the scene of the death of Arthur Vellepides. I want you to take note of any details. In a moment, I'm going to read to you Queenie Vellepides' testimony, her idea of what happened that night. And I want you to look for any details in the picture that would confirm Queenie's story or indicate that she's not being entirely truthful. So, at 5'6" and 110 pounds, Queenie Vellepides was a sight to behold and to clasp. When she tore out of the house after a tiff with her husband Arthur, she went to the country club where there was a party going on. She left the club shortly before 1 in the morning and invited a few friends to follow her home and have one more drink. They got to the Vellepides' house about 10 minutes after Queenie, who met them at the door and said, "Something terrible happened. Arthur slipped and fell on the stairs. He was coming down for another drink. He still had the glass in his hand, and I think he's dead. Oh my God, what shall I do?" The autopsy conducted later concluded that Arthur died from a wound on the head and confirmed that he'd been drunk. So taking a look at this picture, what details do you see that might confirm Queenie's story? Right? The fact that Arthur's at the bottom of the stairs, he is still holding his drink, right? Or that might indicate she's not being entirely truthful with us about the events that occurred when she arrived home from the country club. So take one last good look. So Queenie Vellepides claims she went to the country club after a fight with her husband Arthur. She left the club shortly before 1 a.m. She arrived home 10 minutes before her friends, so there were 10 minutes between when she arrived home and when her friends arrived. And during that time, Arthur died falling down the stairs as he walked down the stairs to get another drink. That is what Queenie Vellepides claims. So, did Arthur Vellepides slip? Or did something more nefarious happen at the Vellepides household during that 10-minute time span? Your job is to figure that out. So you're going to examine the crime scene and develop a theory of what happened. I want you to turn that theory into what we call a claim And then you're going to support your claim using evidence and warrants. Everything that we do with this particular case is actually what makes an essay or a piece of writing very strong. So when we talk about writing a claim and supporting it with evidence and warrants, this is something that we do all the time in English class, but here we're just applying it to the case of Arthur and Queen Euripides. So what is a claim, right? A claim is an assertion of the truth, particularly one that is in doubt. It's a statement that's debatable and usually supported with evidence. Now that means there are things that are claims and things that are not. I like to think of a claim, and I like to explain a claim, in that it is a statement that two reasonable, keyword reasonable, people could argue about, right? A sentence like, the sky is blue, is not something that we're going to argue about. We could disagree about the shade of blue, or one day it might be particularly cloudy, but in general, two reasonable people are not going to argue about the blueness of the sky. So a claim needs to be a statement that requires some kind of backing, and that backing is generally what we call evidence. An example of a claim might be, Queen Euripides is lying, or Arthur did not fall down the stairs. Claims are generally supported with what we call evidence. Evidence are facts or opinions that support an issue or claim. They may consist of statistics, which is what we a lot of times think about. 72% of people who fall down the stairs grab onto the wall as they fall, right? A statistic. Reports, any personal experience that you might have, or the views of experts, people who have studied this particular subject or have something to say on the matter. So examples of evidence in this particular case might be the evidence of the frying pan on the stove. So if you look in the back behind Queen Euripides, you'll see there's a frying pan. It has steam coming off of it. You can see the kind of the oven turned on. So what might that mean is not a part of the evidence, but the fact that it exists and it is cooking on the stove, that is a piece of evidence. Or the wall by the staircase, which we'll take a look at in a minute, being undisturbed and in pristine condition, that's a piece of evidence that you could argue one way or the other. Now, finally, one of the most important parts of supporting a claim is the warrant. And the warrant is the underlying connection between the claim and the evidence, or why does the evidence support the claim? Why does this piece of evidence actually support the claim that you're taking a look at? And this tends to be the part of writing claims and supporting them with evidence that students often struggle with, is this idea that, oh, how do I connect my piece of evidence to the claim, especially when it seems self-explanatory, right? So if you struggle with this particular part, I highly recommend using the phrase "as a rule," because it helps get me in the mindset of, okay, what am I really trying to say with this piece of evidence? And what thing that I think is obvious can I explain to the audience or to the reader, or to the person that I'm trying to prove my point to, that helps them really see what I'm trying to say. So as a rule, right, a person does not leave food cooking on the stove, which means that Arthur of Euripides would have been downstairs when he died and did not fall down the stairs as reported. Now, my warrant, right, is the way that I'm connecting this piece of evidence, this frying pan that's turned on the stove, to the actual claim that Queen Euripides is lying. Let's take a look at another. So let's say my claim was, Arthur of Euripides did not fall down the stairs. He did not fall down the stairs. He could not have fallen down the stairs. If that is my claim, I need to back that up with evidence, and I need to use a warrant to explain how that evidence supports the claim. So my evidence is the wall next to the stairs is undisturbed. If you take a look at the crime scene photo, you can see that the wall that is next to the staircase that Arthur of Euripides supposedly fell down, right, is completely in pristine condition. Nothing is askew. The sconces are in, perfect straight condition. The mirror is exactly as it was before he would have fallen. And so to me, that is a piece of evidence. So as a rule, right, there's that phrase, as a rule, when someone falls down the stairs, they attempt to grab things or flail as they fall. The wall next to the stairs is undisturbed, and so Arthur Vellopides could not have fallen down the stairs. If he had, he would have disturbed the objects on the wall. So now it's your turn. Take another look at the crime scene. Take note of any details that confirm Queenie's story or show that she is lying about what happened to her husband, and come up with your own theory of the crime. Turn that into a claim and support it with pieces of evidence from the scene, only the things that you can see and verify in the scene, and explain using a warrant, right? As a rule, how does that piece of evidence support your claim or your theory of the crime? So, what's your theory? Feel free to argue it out with a parent or a friend. Try to figure out, what do we think really happened to Arthur Vellopides? And in general, stay safe and healthy until we can see you in person again. Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.
I'm Singaram Murugapan, a math teacher from Maxis High School. Segment 3, Solving Linear Equations Using Graphs. In our previous segments, we had seen real-world problems that can be modeled using linear functions and connection with various representation of those linear models. Today, we will look further into how we can solve linear equations using graphs and use these techniques to solve our problems. Question 1. Solve the equation 4x plus 5 is equal to negative 7 using table, graph, and algebraic methods. First of all, what is meant by solve? The process of finding the value or values of the variable that makes the equation true is called solving the equation, and the value or values are said to be the solution of the equation. So let us do the table method right now. So I'm going to make a table. Before, we are going to look at this equation 4x plus 5 is equal to negative 7 into two functions. The one on the left hand side we take as f of x. So f of x is equal to 4x plus 5, and the one on the right hand side we are going to take g of x. See, as said here, we are going to look for values of x so that these two functions take the same equal value. So the input is x, so I'm going to try for different input values of x and verify if f and g comes to be same. So let us start with the simple number 1. So it is 4 times 1, which is 4, plus 5. So 4 plus 5 is 9. And g of x is negative 7. As this one has no x in it, it doesn't change. No matter what is x, g always stays as negative 7. So we could really pre-fill the whole thing. It doesn't change at all. Okay, now let us, these two are not equal. 9 and negative 7 are not equal, so 1 cannot be the answer. Now let us try for 2. So it is 4 times 2, which is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. So these two are not equal either. So 2 cannot be the answer. Now look at the difference between 9 and the values of f and g. 9 negative 7 and 13 negative 7. So our gap is widening. So we can keep going in this direction. You have to change the direction. So instead of going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, we have to go backwards. So 1 to 0. If you plug in 0, 4 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. Now we are getting closer. Still they are not equal. So 0 is not the answer. So negative 1. So 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 5 is 1. These two are not equal either. So Now we are looking for maybe jump into negative 3. So 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 plus 5 is negative 7. Yeah, these two are equal. So the answer is negative 3. So we could write that the solution is x equals negative 3. So for this value of x, your f and g take the same value, so this is called the solution. So this is called table method. So we do basically trial and error. So now let us go to the next method, which is graph. So we still use those f and g, same functions. So f is 4x plus 5 and g is negative 7. So we need a graph now. See, last class, in our last segment, we learned about how to graph linear function using its y-intercept and slope. Let us find the y-intercept and slope for both of them. So 5 is your constant. So 5 is your constant, and that's the slope. So your y-intercept is 0, 5. And the slope is the x term, coefficient of x term, which is 4. We write the slope as fraction, which is 4 over 1. The rise is 4, that is 4 units up, run is 1, so 1 unit to the right. We go to 0, 5 on y-axis, then 4 up, 1 over to the right. As we can't go further anymore on the right side, we go to the left, which is the opposite, 4 down, 1 to the left, then 4 down, 1 to the left, then again 4 down, 1 to the left. Now we could join these. Then the second function g of x, we could write negative 7 as 0 times x plus negative 7. The x term is 0, the constant term is negative 7, so y-intercept is negative 7, which is 0, negative 7. Slope is the coefficient of x, which is 0. As a fraction, you could write 0 over any non-zero number. We could choose maybe 2. So you don't go up or down, you stay flat, and it is 2 units to the right. So it is at 0, negative 7, which is here. Then you don't go up or down, it is 2 units flat. You could go to the right and then left. And the two lines, see, this is f of x and this is g of x. They both become, see, the coordinates are negative 3, negative 7. This is the value of f and g, and this is the value of x. So f of x is equal to g of x, which is negative 7 at x equals negative 3. So the solution is x equals negative 3. So this is what graph method is. Now coming to the algebraic method, so we are going to use the properties of equations here. The properties of equations says adding, subtracting, multiplying or dividing both sides of an equation results in another equivalent equation. So division by 0 is not allowed, so we don't divide by 0. And to solve an equation algebraically, isolate the variable. You have to make x by itself. By doing the inverse operation. The inverse operations are, for addition you do subtraction, for subtraction you do addition, for multiplication you do division, for division you do multiplication except 0. Awesome. So this is what you do to solve an algebraic equation. So we start with the equation. The equation is 4x plus 5 is equal to negative 7. Isolate x. X is right here. So it is 4 times x plus 5. So first we have to undo the addition. That's the last done. So we have to undo the last one which is done. So addition 5 is done by inverse, which is subtraction of 5. So now 5 plus 5, 5 minus 5 get cancelled. Negative 7, negative 5 is negative 12. Then 4x. Now it is 4 times x, so you are going to divide by 4. So x equals negative 3. These two cancel. There are 3 4s in negative 12, so negative 3. Now we got the solution. So we have done basically 3 different methods. Depending on the equation, one of these 3 methods may be better choice over other methods. So let us see another example to explore the same. So the next example is identify which method would be better to solve the equation 3x plus 2 is equal to 10x minus 1. So the purpose is to find which one is better method. So we have to really do each of these three methods and really analyze from there. So first one, we are going to do the table method. So here I'm going to use the graphing calculator to make it faster. If you want, you could still use the paper and pencil, so that's up to your choice. So we still use our first function is 3x plus 2 and the second function is 10x minus 1. So I go into my equation editor. First function is 3x plus 2 and the second function is 10x minus 1. So now we are going to use our table feature. So before that, let us see how the table set is. So second window, go to the table set. So our table set started at 0. Each time it increases, the value of x increases by 1. We keep the independent and dependent variables auto, so it's automatically populated. So second graph shows our table. Now these are the values of the function f and g, basically the 3x plus 2 and 10x minus 1. So we are really looking for where they get same value. When they are same, the value of x is the solution. So now if you look at 2, negative 1, 5, 9. So these are getting farther. So the answer is not going to be anywhere after this. So it's going to be somewhere before 0, or maybe after 0 it's closer to 0. So let us go to the backward. So when you go backward again, we see the values are going apart. So the value has to be between 0 and 1. So now we need to change our table set parameters. So let us start from 0. This time let us go by 1/10 of the independent variable. So the increment is 1/10. So second grace again. So now 0, 0.1. So now if you look at where they are closer. So they are very close between this area, 0.4 and 3.2 and 3. So the value is between 0.4 and 0.5. So we go back to table set again. Let us start at 0.4. And this time I'm going to go 1/100th of the independent variable. So second graph, now we start at 0.4, so where they are closer. So these are apart. They're very close at 3.29 and 3.3. So where it is 0.43. This is approximate. So approximately when x is 4.3, the values are equal. So we conclude that x is approximately equal to 0.43. So now the graph method. So graph method is again, I'm going to use a graphing calculator. As the functions are already input in our y, we don't have to do anything with that. So go to the graph and we already see the point of intersection. So that's what we did in our manually the other time. Now we are using a calculator. See, there is a feature called intersect under the calculation menu. So second trace brings your calculate menu. So intersection is now choice number 5. Choose 5. So now the calculator is asking what is your first function. So the first curve is y1. So say the blinker is already on y1. So enter. Now it's asking for the second curve and the blinker goes on the red one, which is y2. So enter. Now the calculator knows what are the two functions. It has to find the intersection. It is waiting for you to hit the enter third time to calculate it. So now when you press the third button, it shows where the intersection is and at what value of x and the values of y. And you could toggle between the functions. So y1 is y1. Look at the values of y1 and the y2. They are the same. And each time the x is 0.28 0.426. This is the approximate value we got 4.3, which is very close to this. This is actually exact value, and if you closely look at it, see 4285714. It means it's going to repeat. So here the value what we got is so we're going to solve this equation using algebraic method, the properties of equation. So the first thing is the x term is on both sides. We have to collect the x's on one side, so it's better to collect the smaller x term to the other side. So I'm going to collect 3x here, so by subtracting 3x on both sides, so we get these two cancels. 2 is equal to 10 minus 3 is 7x minus 1. Now add 1 on both sides, these two cancels, so you get 3 is equal to 7x. So now divide by 7, so you get 7 get cancel, so x is equal to 3 over 7. If you write this as a decimal, 0.42 8 5 1, then 7, and keep repeating. So here we see that both graph and algebraic methods are better than the table method, provided we use a graphing calculator to graph, as the answer is a repeating decimal. In simple terms, algebraic method is superior than any other methods, whereas use of the technology helps us avoid some tedious steps. So this method of solving equation using graphs can be applied even to solve nonlinear equation. The same method can be like first function is y1, second function is y2, then find the intersection. The coordinates, the x coordinate is the solution, and the y value is the equal values of the two functions. Let us see another example before going any further. So this is a very simple equation, typical equation you get in test. Solve an equation 8 minus 2x is equal to 0. So this 0 confuses most of the students. When you use the graph method, this is what we are going to do most of the time. So the first function here is 8 minus 2x, and the second function is 0. So for this function, your y-intercept is constant term, which is 8, that is 0, 8, and the slope is coefficient of x term, which is negative 2, which is negative 2 over 1. So we are going to start at 8, which is here, then it is negative 2 down to 1 over. So we can come down to 1 over, so we have number of values, so join all these, and this is your y-intercept is 0 and the slope is also 0. So you go through the 0 on y-axis, there is no up or down, you just keep it flat. Now these two functions intersect at 4, 0. So the solution is x equals 4, and when x is 4, both of your sides will be balanced as 0. So this is how you do even if it is 0. So it's the same thing. So what you have seen is how we could use the graphing utility to solve any kind of equation just by breaking into two functions and finding the intersection. Now we are ready to solve a word problem using this technique. So we are going back to our problem that we did in our first segment, which is about the fitness problem. There are different schemes for family membership, and we are working with Miss Jackson, who is a single parent with a daughter 16 years old, and we already figured out for our family the single parent package would be the better choice if she is going to keep 6 or more months. So the joining fee of $70, monthly fee is $55. I'm going to extend this problem now. Suppose Miss Jackson wants to shop with another new fitness center called Perfect Fit in the locality that offers free first month for family membership with $75 joining fee plus $60 monthly fee starting from second month. So the first month is free and the joining fee is $75. Starting from the second month they have to pay $60 each month. So in how many months the membership cost of Ms. Jackson's family be the same from either fitness centers? So as we already discussed, the cost for the old fitness center is 70 plus 55x. You could go back and check. Similarly, the membership cost function for the new fitness center. So let us name this as P, which stands for Perfect Fitness, Family Package, X is number of months. So there is a joining fee of $75. She has to pay $60 every month only from second month. It means the first month is free. So let us subtract the $60. So some students may write this one as 75 plus 60 times x minus 1. This x minus 1 stands for you always pay 1 month less than the number of months because the first month is free. Okay, so now these are the two plans we have. The first question, the question says in how many months the membership cost of Ms. Jackson's family would be the same from either fitness centers. So we want these two costs to be the same. So our equation is m of x should be equal to p of x, and m of x is 70 plus 55x is equal to 75 plus 60x minus 60. So we are going to use this one in our calculator to complete the rest. Erase any other previous equations. So I'm going to plug it in. 70 plus 55x, and my other equation is 75 plus 60x minus 60. So once just check all our equations are correct. Good. So see the graph. So we don't see the intersection. So let us see, it's going to be somewhere here. So we have to increase our y value. So I see the intersection somewhere here. Let us go to the second trace. Number 5 for intersection. My y1 is first function, y2 is the second function. Press enter again so it's ready to guess. So the intersection is 11 and the cost is 675. This means that in 11 months the cost of two plans would be the same. And in this case the red is the y2, the p, the new fitness center, which is less up to 11 months. But after 11 months the new center and the new fitness center cost is higher than the existing one. So though they have the first month free, they go higher after 11 months. We could also check our answers. In 11 months what happens? Under the first plan it is 70 plus 55 times 11, which is 70 plus 605, which is 675. This is from the m of x, and for p it is 75 plus 60 times 11 minus 60. So it is 75 plus 600 minus 60. Sorry, 660 minus 60. So it's going to be 75 plus 600. This is also 675. So our answer is correct. So in 11 months both costs would be the same. So in 11 months both fitness centers would cost the same. This is how we could really solve problems using graph features. First you have to set up an equation, then use the graphing utility to solve the equation. So you can see numerous similar problems for practice in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 of Springboard textbooks. I am giving one of them from the textbook. It's right here. So you could try this one, take a screenshot, take a picture in your phone and try it. So thanks for watching this lesson. So if you have any questions, reach me at my email. Thank you.
This is CMSD. I am.
Yo soy.
I am Cleveland's public schools. Wow, I did it. Well, I'm excited. Happy to be here. I'm happy to graduate.
Congratulations! I feel great. I'm about to graduate. I'm done. It's lit.
I'm super excited.
Aaliyah, Monique, Asia.
I can't wait to see what this class does.
It was a goal, and now that I'm finally accomplished it, I'm happy.
Well, our students have been really fantastic. This isn't what they wanted. It's not what I wanted. This is my first class that I came here 13 years ago when they were kindergartners, and I was looking forward to the celebrations more than I ever do. But we have to be safe, and COVID-19 isn't gone. And as the kids have gone through, they've just had joy on their face. They're honking their horns. Their families are celebrating, and so we're going to make the best of this because that's what Cleveland does.
I'm just blessed that we still was able to do something like this to celebrate us, because this is a really big deal to get your diploma and just graduate.
I'm about to go to a whole new chapter in my life, college. It's different.
I'm very confident I'm going to accomplish everything in life.